Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. We're just going to be waiting for some people, but in the meantime, please let me know if you can hear us or see us. My name is Shauna Campbell, and I am the Admissions Marketing Manager at School Year Abroad. So we're just going to wait a couple minutes and make sure everything is working properly.
No, it's fine. You can do that. Yeah, it's fine.
Great.
Hey everyone, we're gonna start in a little bit. We're just gonna wait for other people to get on. We are gonna start at 7 sharp. If you're already online, please in the chat box, go ahead and put the country you're interested in, your name, and your school.
All right, we'll give it one more minute, and after that, we will start. Hi, Max. We have Max Friedman. He goes to Head Royce, and he's interested in Italy.
Hey Max.
Hi, Max. Thank you for joining us.
Head Royce is beautiful.
And we got Emily from the Bishop School, who's interested in Spain.
Hey Emily. I hope I saw you at the Bishop School.
Great, and as more people trickle in, please just type in your name, your school, and what program you're interested in.
California, woo-woo.
All right, well, it's 7 o'clock, so I think we should get started, and more people can join us when they can. The session should run about 45 minutes. So I'd like to point out, if for some reason you do have to leave for whatever reason, the session will actually be on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it whenever you like. So everyone, welcome to our first Google Hangout. This session is called 5 Reasons Why You Need to Study Abroad with SYA. My name is Shauna Campbell, and I am the Admissions Marketing Manager here at School Year Abroad. And with me, I have Anna Hughes and Enrique Granado. So if you guys wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves and just tell us what program you studied with SYA.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Enrique Granados. I am an Assistant Director of Admissions here with SYA, and I'm a proud alum of the SYA China class 2010-2011.
Hi everybody, my name is Anna Hughes. I'm also an Assistant Director of Admissions at School Year Abroad, and I am a proud alumna of SYA Spain 2005-2006.
Great, and we also have Logan, who's joining us from the Master School, who's interested in China. So welcome, Logan.
Ooh, China!
Alrighty, so Anna, would you mind just going through like a brief description of SYA in our schools?
Sure. So School Year Abroad is a year-long study abroad and homestay program for high school juniors, seniors, and a select group of sophomores. And each year we select a group of adventurous students just like you guys to attend each of our schools in China, France, Italy, and in Spain. Our students come from both public and private high schools from all over the United States. And I do want to mention that for France and for Spain, there is a 2-year language requirement, or you have to be at least at a level 2 to join the programs. And in China and in Italy, there is no language requirement. So if you are a beginner, you should feel free to apply.
Great. So just to start off, I'd like to ask each of you, why did you decide to apply to SYA? Anna, do you want to start?
Sure. So I actually grew up knowing about SYA. My uncle did the program back in the 1960s. And so I'd always known about the program. And my uncle always tried to convince my older siblings to do it, but they didn't. And I think it is one of their biggest regrets. So when my uncle when I was 16, he was like, why don't you do it? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. So I'm glad I did.
I came along SYA a little differently. It was a big thing at my home school. There were a lot of students that had done it before I did it, and I knew I was really passionate about the language I was studying. I had taken 2 years of Chinese at my home school, and I was nowhere near fluent, or I thought I was okay at it. If anything, I really enjoyed it, and that's what really made it a great choice for me. I heard about the other students that they loved their SYA experiences and the languages that they learned them so well that I wanted to, jump in feet first, and it was an amazing experience. And I can tell you guys with 100% certainty that it truly changed my life.
Great, so let's dive into our 5 reasons. So reason number 1, I think easily is the people that you meet, whether they're your new friends, your host family, or the faculty. These people change your life. So if you guys just want to start talking about that, Anna, you can go first.
Yeah, so I really do think that the people that you meet during SYA make the experience what it is, especially when we're talking about the friends you make. You're all going through this common experience, and that brings you together like no other bond you could possibly imagine. And I really do think that while you're so different and come from diverse backgrounds, you are sharing this common experience, but it's uniquely your own. And so I think the friends that I made were some of the most special relationships that I've ever had. And I do think that the people that I met during SYA really did change me, and not just my friends, but certainly my host family 100%, and the faculty there too. It's just such a strong bond, unlike any other friendships that I've had with anybody else, really.
When I was there, when I was at SYA, my experience with the program was really sort of based around a lot of the faculty that you met, because they had such an incredible background of teaching the language, and they are extremely passionate about the program. One, because it's not just that they're teaching a language, it's that they're actually teaching their home countries. So the faculty oftentimes are representing their nations wholeheartedly, and they want you to see the beauty, the authenticity, the wonderful neighborhoods, foods, and they do all of their teaching with such a passion that it's really almost unparalleled anywhere else in terms of academic environments. And they're some of your literal teachers, but the families, your host families that you have on SYA are also a really powerful part of the experience, because they keep the teaching going. So you may learn, different verbs in Chinese class for washing or cooking or boiling, and then your host mom or your host dad use them at home and use them right away, and it's a really good feeling. And those kinds of learning environments with the people you meet make it an amazing time, and it makes learning a lot of fun.
And I think a lot of people, I think for Spain and for France especially, their concern is like, I'm gonna actually have classes in a different language, and that's, I think, a big point of nervousness. But the teachers there are so, I don't know, they're so attuned to the ebbs and flows of learning a second language, and so they're very much there to support you and make sure that you're successful. And I think there's nothing cooler when you're starting to not translate in your head anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the faculty abroad are such an important link to that. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. So we've had a few more people join us, so thank you for joining us. And we're going to go on to the second reason, which is food. And that's everyone's favorite reason for a variety of reasons. But whether we're talking about home-cooked meals from your host family, cooking classes, or just grabbing food with friends, it's safe to say that food is an integral part of the SYA experience.
Yeah.
Guys, want to just talk about that a little bit?
Sure, like 100%. China, France, Italy, and Spain, like they're known for their cuisines. So obviously food is important. But it's so much more than that, because it's it helps you relate better to the country that you're going to, I think. So you learn the customs surrounding eating a big meal with your host family, or how dishes are prepared regionally. I don't know, there's just so much more than just eating your way through the country, but learning a bit more, like a nuanced understanding of the culture through the food. And I miss Spanish cuisine so much. And my hobby back here is finding the best jamon serrano possible. So I'm still on that mission.
For me, I think that across the SYAs, food is an international language, no matter what country you're in. And when you're on an SYA, whether you can speak French fluently, have been doing it since you were 5, or whether you can't speak a lick of Italian, food is, you don't need to use words. You consume it, you can admire it, you can dislike it, that's totally fine. And when you're abroad, being an SYA student, you're given the opportunity to try so much food when you're with your host families, with your friends, going out to dinner. You'll go out with your class sometimes, you'll have different meals, whether they're traditional or modern. They're a great way to bond, and you can all agree upon what dish was the best, what dish was the worst. If you don't know what it is in a dish, that's also a great conversation topic. But there's so many ways for you guys to interact around food, and there's some of the most memorable times. My favorite time in Beijing was during the winter. We would have hot pot, and the hot pot is this huge kind of communal activity where you have this giant boiling pot of soup, and you put in different vegetables and meats and different processed foods like dumplings or tofu, and you don't always know what you get because they kind of bring it out in these big baskets. And you're like, oh, I wonder what's this one, this one. Then, you put them in, you try, and sometimes you don't like them. But I'm telling you guys, it's an international language, and you don't need to speak the language to enjoy the food. So, yeah.
And I think just learning how to, especially in the European countries, I don't know so much about China, but like Sunday meals are so important. And I just learned how to kind of put my electronics away for a little bit. Well, for the 3-hour lunches that we had, and like just enjoy the moment. And I think that's increasingly hard to do, but something that you learn while doing SYA.
I definitely learned really quickly. One thing was about like table manners. Table manners are very different in Asia, particularly China. And I learned a lot of table manners that were very, very important at a Chinese table. And I was nervous about them at the beginning, but they know you're going to make mistakes. They know you're going to learn as you go. But they are understanding, and it's a great time to absorb another culture and all of its customs.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about learning.
Yes.
So at SYA, you have so many chances to learn interactively and to build those language skills. So do you want to talk about that interactive learning a little bit?
Sure. So what you're learning in the classroom does not stay in the classroom, and that's kind of the beauty of SYA, is that the learning that you do is not confined to the 4 walls. And so you have the opportunity to take the curriculum in the classroom and go to a place and put it into a real life context. And I think that's much more powerful than just kind of reading in a textbook. For me, I think we had in art history, we were studying Picasso, and we were doing a study on Guernica. And we went to the Reina Sofia in Madrid to see the painting, and then as part of an independent travel trip, we went to, a couple friends and I went to Guernica to see the town. And I think that, I don't know, nothing can be as poignant as actually experiencing it in real life context. And I think SYA does a really great job of that, and makes you kind of jazzed to be learning and to be out into the field.
For me, the hands-on learning is one of the best ways that you can constantly challenge, because you think about your textbooks and the context that you learn a lot of material in, whether it's math, whether it's science, and particularly language. It's hard to really understand and take to memory the content you're learning in class until you put it into a context. And when you're doing activities, like in Italy, the students go out and make white wine vinegar. and they have to read the recipes. It's a part of their language experience because they're receiving part of their instructions in Italian. They start to build memories, but in the language. And that's hands-on learning. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen in your math classes, they'll take word problems from the real world, and they make more sense. You can kind of learn the context of your math skills within a frame of reference. And that kind of hands-on learning happens at SYA almost 24/7, because not only are you in class in France and in Spain, you have your language classes that are in the language, and your art history, all of that. 80% of your classes are in the language. But then you go home and you keep speaking it. So your language experience is almost all day long, and you get exhausted. But you start to think of it as kind of a game. You see it as part of your life, not just a class, not just an hour a day, not just 4 times a week. This is a lifestyle that you start to build, and it's great.
Great. So let's talk about travel, which I know is everyone's favorite. With SYA, you have so many different types of travel opportunities. Do you mind going through what those type of opportunities are?
Do you want to start with the opportunities that SYA offers to students?
So, for reference, I'll talk about the opportunities for travel that SYA offers, and then Anna's going to talk about some different travel opportunities. They're available, they're just not, they're a little different, and so we'll explain that. So, SYA offers a variety of travel opportunities at all 4 of our sites, and oftentimes they revolve around your curriculum, because we emphasize the content that you're learning in class is not just on a page, it's not just ink on a sheet of paper. These are experiences, these are stories, these are buildings, these are ruins that you can go out and see in the real world. And they make sure that they build your curriculum around that. So whether that's learning about the history of the Great Wall of China, or learning about the history of Guernica, you are learning about a city, and then how Picasso painted it and why he painted it around the city in this context. You'll go out and see it. Now, for SYA China, you take, for example, 3 major trips during your year, one to the south of China, one to the southwest, and one to the central parts of China. And they're about a week plus long each trip, and they're incredible. Your classroom really goes with you. Your teachers come with you, and you get assignments that are based on cities. I'll never forget going to the city of Tianshui in Yunnan province, and we were given an assignment. We were given our lunch money for that day, and we were told, go out, complete your assignment, and come back. And that's one of the things that, you're traveling, but you're also learning. At all of our SYAs, we have lots of kinds of travel. SYA Italy does travel every Wednesday, where they take class in a different part of Italy. So they'll take maybe a day trip every single Wednesday. My personal favorite day that they do is their amazing race day, where they will travel to Rome, and they're given a map of Rome, and they have to complete an assignment throughout the day, and it's their job to caffeinate themselves, feed themselves, and complete their assignment, and they have to be home. And that's the kind of travel that SYA offers.
So the other option is something called independent travel, and that happens kind of late in the first semester, and you're able to kind of create your own itinerary. And as long as you have permission from the resident director of your host country and from your biological family, you're able to take a weekend and go see a different part of your host country. And I think that is an incredible experience, because there's so much to see within your own host country, and the ability to go take a weekend and do a 12-hour train ride to go to the other side of the country is huge, and it definitely instills in you. There's a lot of trust given, and there's a lot of independence earned in the program for sure.
Great. So the last reason is basically the independence that you get once you become comfortable in a country, and that self-confidence after you've been there for a while and know the language. So I feel like that's the best feeling ever.
Yes.
So Anna, please tell me about it.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of, obviously language acquisition, #1 takeaway, but I think my sense of self-confidence was probably #2. I don't know, this program taught me and gave me the tools to problem solve. to think more critically, to communicate more clearly.
Mm.
And in turn, I was given independence. And that manifested itself in independent travel or whatever. But being given that independence also just instilled in me self-confidence. And I was able to navigate my host city comfortably and confidently. And yeah, I just feel like I was able to get there, not having skipped a beat, and because I was given the tools to do so.
So to kind of tie in a lot of what we've talked about, we talked about hands-on learning and food and family, and that all kind of comes down to this core part of independence that you learn. When I was on SYA, I remember at the beginning, you always try and order, some food from a restaurant, right? You're trying to order something that you will at least think you like. Your language skills aren't that good. Maybe your friends are with you, but they're in the same boat. They don't speak as much, Spanish or French as, you do. They were in the same class as you. And at the beginning of the semester, you order okay food, whether that's, just a plain crepe in France, or whether that's, some okay tapas in Spain. But when it comes to this independence and the self-confidence that you learn, throughout your year, you'll realize that not only are you start to order okay food, you learn and you have the independence and the confidence to order the best food at any restaurant that you go to. So that's a great way to kind of conceptualize how not only you'll start in one place, right? You just go and you just want to have a safe meal. You want to, eat a good, decent bowl of rice with some kung pao chicken. But then by the end of the year, you're out there, you're trying new restaurants, you want to try new food, new ice cream, Greek food in China. It's amazing. And you'll have the self-confidence to go out and try those things. And you'll be shocked by the end of the year, how much you can accomplish. And you can talk to them and you can ask waiters and, owners of restaurants. So what is the best food on this menu? What would you recommend? Why do you recommend it? And it's that, that gusto that comes with life and with your SYA that I think it is, just a couple of the reasons and how they're manifested, during your time with us. And yeah.
Great. So thank you both for answering and going through these 5 reasons. And just to recap, those 5 reasons are meet people who will change your life, food, interactive learning that strengthens your language skills, travel opportunities, and independence that generates self-confidence. So now we're going to go into the Q&A portion of our Hangout. So if you do have a question, feel free to type it in the chat box that many of you have already introduced yourself in. And we will start and answer your questions. All right, so we have one good question to start you guys off. What was your favorite class and why?
All right, so my favorite class, I had 2 favorite classes, but I'll go with just one. My favorite class was my theater class. And the reason for that is because it was probably the hardest class that I had. Because we started right off the bat doing kind of monologues and writing our own monologues, and my Spanish was pretty limited. So having to write like a whole monologue was very challenging for me. But Uriel, who's the teacher in Spain, was just so patient, but also was strict with us. He wanted us to get it done. And it was just right out the gate, really outside of my comfort zone. And I just remember, kind of reciting my monologue and being petrified, but also when it was done, being so, I was like, I can't believe I just did that. Yeah. And it was about getting my first haircut in Spain. So it's it was just so awesome. And yeah, it was a great class and definitely made me more confident speaking out loud in Spanish, which is really important.
I think my favorite class on SYA China was probably my Chinese history class, because we did a lot of work that couldn't be done in other types of history classes, like the regular history class. We did a couple of actually Chinese-based language history. So we learned a lot of the characters for historical events in China, and because Chinese modern history is extremely recent, you can still go out onto the streets and interview people about what they think about politicians, what they think about revolutions and different events that happened in the early modern history in China, and it's incredibly relevant. So you go out and you put it into context right away, and Chinese people will often ask you about what you think about these events, right? Because they don't often meet people who are well versed in Chinese history or may not understand it from the get-go. Now, if the question was, Shauna, if I were at an SYA, which class would I want to take? I think that I would definitely try and take the art history class in Spain. I'm sorry, in Italy, because there's so much art in Italy, and I know that the students there have an amazing time going out there and trying out new things. And I don't know, I just feel I would want to do that. I would want to go to the art history class in Italy for sure. Not to diss my SYA China, but if I want, if I want to try out a different one, I would try out the SYA Italy art history class for sure.
All right, so we have a lot of questions coming in. One is about extracurriculars. We have someone asking about, did you have the chance to participate in a sport, or can you play a musical instrument? So if you guys wouldn't mind just going through like what extracurricular activities are available at SYA.
Sure. So I like to start with saying your life abroad can look as similar or as different as you want it to as your life back home. With a couple exceptions, especially in terms of sports. But if you want to join a sports team, it's certainly possible. Each site does have a co-curricular coordinator who will work with you to find the sport or the activity that you're looking for. And really, I mean, these are big enough cities that there's a lot to offer. But you have to be, flexible a little bit in terms of what you're looking for. When I was in Spain, I did a cooking class, which was so much fun. And I also did something called an intercambio, which is kind of like a language exchange. So it was a more formal setting for me to practice my Spanish, but also do tutoring in English for Spaniards who are looking to better their English. So really, that's what I wanted to do when I was there. I decided not to continue my sports, but I know a lot of friends went over there and continued it right away. So.
And to continue in that vein, you can come to an SYA and, like Anna said, be as similar to your life at home as you want, or as new and exciting as you can make it. Now, when I went on SYA, I wanted to try out some different things, and for example, I ran a lot of cross country at home at my home school, and that was fine. I knew I like to run, I like to do a lot of track and running, but I wanted to try something different that fall. And I picked up Chinese painting as an afternoon class for like an hour and a half. Not a big commitment. It was right after class. It was taught in the school. That was every Monday. And the teacher was great. He was super nice, super patient. And then there was also on Wednesdays, they had local art musicians, like musician teachers from a local school come in and teach traditional Chinese instruments. And so these are instruments that you would really never have access to one-on-one teachings outside of, honestly, China. You might see people who know how to play them casually in the US, but these are professional teachers that know what they're doing. And if you're interested in trying out a different instrument, maybe you play an instrument now, whether that's the violin, the piano, the flute, a set of drums, there are comparable Chinese traditional versions of those instruments, and they're available to you, and you can ask to bring in a teacher to teach you that instrument. So, for example, there's a bamboo flute that you can try out if you play the flute or the clarinet. There's a Chinese scyther, which is this huge kind of wooden harp, and it's on its side. And if you play the piano, it's a very similar tone, and the keys are kind of lined up on the strings in the same way. There's a Chinese guitar as well called the pipa and the ruan. They're incredibly interesting, and you might never have access to a teacher like this ever again. So, like Anna said, you can come to SYA and join football teams in Spain. Or you can come and also do these other amazing things that you would never have access to at home.
Great. So I know people are always concerned about host families, and a couple of you have typed in questions about host families. Can you guys just talk about your host family and like describe them to our viewers and tell us why you liked them?
Yeah. And to start, so we take, obviously, SYA takes great care in matching you with your host family. I think the SYA experience is what it is because of the host families our students are placed with. And we do have a host family coordinator as well, who does a wonderful job of matching our students. I had the most unbelievable host family. I lived with a host mom and a younger brother, Lorenzo, and it was like instantaneous. Every Wednesday I would do running with Lorenzo, and then every Saturday I'd go to his basketball team, and I almost like co-coached the team too. And it was, I don't know, it was just such a special bond. And I got there and was nervous of my language skills, and they brought me out of my shell immediately. They were caring, they were thoughtful, but they were also silly and allowed me to be me. And I couldn't have asked for a better host family. And it is true when alums say that they've stayed in touch. I still talk to Lorenzo every week, and it's just such a unique relationship that you'll never have. It's not comparable to anything else.
Your host families are, I like to say, some of your first friends while you're there. They are kind of literally your home support. Yeah, you're leaving home. Yeah, you're leaving your American home family. But you have to remember that these are families that are opening their homes to you. They want to share their tables with you, their rooms, their stories. They want to share their food with you, their culture. And I loved my host mom. I had a host mom and a host brother in Beijing. And my host mom loved cooking food. I loved to eat the food as well. And so that made it a great relationship because I'm Mexican-American and I also love to cook at home. And so my host mom loved sharing recipes with me, and I was very intent on watching her cook and learning how to cook, memorizing and secretly watching her recipes. But I definitely learned a lot from her culturally. And then you have to remember that you're on an SYA, right? You have one host family, but you're going to school with other students, and those 40 students also have host families. And if you're friends with 5 of those students, those host parents are also as open to you as they are to their SYA host child. So you can go to a friend's house and you can meet their host mom, and they know who you are. They're like, oh, you're an SYA student. Come, eat, stay. Play with the kids, go play basketball. So you're not just with your own host family, you have social access to a lot of other host families as well.
All right, so we have a good question, and it's about how do you get your parents on board? Well, how would you suggest that you get them comfortable and just get them on board with SYA? Because you are going abroad to another country, but how do we convince those parents?
That's a great question. And yeah, I think it's a challenging one to answer, because obviously every parent's concerns may be a little bit different. But I do invite, if your parent is having trouble saying yes to this experience, obviously we invite them to have conversations with us too, and talk to parents of recent alums too. I think what you have to really do is just kind of sit them down and say, what are you going to get out of this experience? Why do you need to go? And I think that there are, aside from the reasons that we've given, there are so many compelling reasons to do this experience. And they may say, well, why not in college? It's completely different. I think I studied abroad in college and I did SYA, and they're night and day experiences. Here you're given the support to flourish and learn a new language. And I think kind of got to do it in high school. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that, so every parent has an infinite amount of worries, and if you're a parent out there watching, we understand. We were once students with parents to convince as well, and we get it. Again, just want to offer both Anna and myself up. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. We are available to you with any questions or concerns. And for the students watching, if you think your parents are unconvincible, send them our way, all right? That's our job. We can help you there. Now, if you want to try it on your own, here's the recipe I would give you. First of all, you want to make sure that they understand exactly what SYA is. All right, you want to make sure that they know that there's a host family involved. You can go on our website, the FAQs, the frequently asked questions are all on there. Make sure that you know exactly what SYA is, all right? A lot of fear comes out of confusion. If they don't know what you're signing up for, they're probably gonna say no, all right? Now, next up, get your priorities straight, all right? Make sure you understand why you wanna go. Whether it's for travel, or whether it's for the language, or whether it's for college. Colleges love SYA. This is a great time to showcase that and tell them, Mom, Dad, like I know this is a big, big risk. I know this is a big leap of faith, but I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for. And, showing them that you're interested at that level is a great way for them to be like, wow, he's really confident in this. Maybe I should look into it a little more. Okay? Now, if they still say no, again, send them our way. Not only can we talk to them, we can also have our director of enrollment talk to them. They're not the first SYA parents to come our way that have tough questions, and I guarantee all of you, they won't be the last.
Yeah, great advice. So let's talk a little bit about travel. What was your favorite trip?
My favorite trip with SYA was to this little town called Cadaqués in not too far from Barcelona, and it's where Dali was born. And it's a little.
Who's Dali?
Dali is a very famous Spanish artist.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
And it's a little bit Greek-like because it's a beach town, so a lot of the homes were white with kind of the blue shutters. It's gorgeous. And it was one of the last trips that we took. So there's a lot of nostalgia there, I think. Maybe that's why that's my favorite trip. But also it was the first time that I took a dip in the Mediterranean Sea. So it was just a beautiful end to an amazing experience, and just one that really stands out for me.
I think one of my favorite trips on SYA was definitely when we went to southwestern China. Southwestern China is home to an incredibly diverse group of people. China has 56 ethnic minorities. 26 of them live in Yunnan province, and every February, SYA China goes to Yunnan province for a 2-week / maybe kind of 2.5-week trip. And when the students are on the trip, they do this incredibly in-depth kind of road trip around southwestern China. And they meet an incredible amount of ethnic minorities because they go to these markets on the weekends where you'll see people carrying like pigs and ducks on their shoulders. You'll see old men selling tobacco in these huge kind of piles. You'll see different ethnic minorities in their traditional dress selling, water lilies and lotus flowers, and piles of eggplant all along the street. And I'll never forget how vibrant it was. And I just, and then on top of that, you get to go out and experience a lot of just incredibly unique like landscapes. So you get to see a lot of rainforests, rice paddies, jungles. Southwestern China houses some of Asia's last Asian elephants, and we get to see a couple of them while we were on SYA. So, I mean, to this day, it's still one of my favorite trips ever, even as an adult, ever.
All right, so Emma wants to know, do the credits you receive at SYA transfer back to your home school, or how does that whole process work so you're on track?
Sure. So we are an accredited, even though we have locations in China, France, Italy, and Spain, we are an accredited American high school. So the credits are very likely to transfer back. It does, sometimes it depends on independent versus public school, but we follow an American style curriculum, so those credits can transfer back, and that's why we are so popular, because you don't have to miss a year of high school and you come back to your home school without having skipped a beat.
And so if you're interested, maybe you have some concerns around whether or not these credits might transfer, saying, oh, well, but my high school is blah, 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 whether they're strict or have these special requirements. Two things. One, contact us. Let us know, one, that you're interested and what homeschool you're at. And two, check in with your home advisor or guidance counselor. Let them know, I'm thinking about doing this. What are next steps? What might you see as an obstacle? And if they come up with obstacles saying, you know what, Johnny, you're gonna have to take this class in, underwater weaving. Come to us, all right? We are also here to help you. We've dealt with many students at many schools. This year, Anna, how many schools do we represent this year?
140, I think.
140 unique schools, all right? So we've dealt with many different kinds of schools across the spectrum. So if you think that your school is going to be particularly tough, send them our way. Let them know that you're interested, and then connect us, and we will help you. We're here to support all of you.
So this is a question about both of you personally. Did you study Chinese and Spanish in college? And I mean, to further that question, how did this experience kind of bring you to where you are today? How did it impact your life?
Sure. So during SYA, I absolutely fell in love with Spanish. And my understanding of the language continues to be an integral part of who I am. Every night before I go to bed, I watch an episode of El Internado to practice. But yeah, so I majored in Spanish in college, and then after I graduated, I returned to Spain for 2 years to teach in Spain, in southern Spain. And yeah, I had no idea that I had this kind of passion in me. And it wasn't until I was able to explore it in Spain that, yeah, I love the language, I love the culture, and a lot of me still wants to be there. And I think that's the most crazy thing about SYA, how it's not just for 9 months, it's an integral part of who you are forever.
So one of the best things about learning a language at this level is that, one, it's kind of like gaining another level of interaction with the world, right? You may live your life loving American football and then international, like football, and when you take Spanish or one of our 4 or 5 languages that we offer, you're opening yourself up to a whole other level of interaction. Now, when I took Mandarin at SYA, I discovered that I had a real passion for it because I loved it. I loved going to restaurants. I loved talking to people, sharing stories, hearing their stories, hearing their jokes. Chinese people are hilarious, and I love talking to them. And I knew that during the college process, I wanted a really strong language program at my college. Now, not a lot of colleges have really strong Mandarin programs, so it made it a very quick process in saying, all right, I want a college that has a really strong Mandarin program. And it cut the list short, all right, these are the schools. And I knew these were excellent programs. I asked my Mandarin teachers, what programs are really strong. They helped me with the list. And I went on to take my Mandarin at Georgetown, where I was accepted and got in and, went for my undergrad. And then I started getting interested in a little bit of politics at Georgetown. Being in DC, it's kind of inevitable. But I knew in the end that I really wanted to stick with Mandarin, so I ended up majoring in it at Georgetown. Now, that being said, just because you major in something doesn't mean that you exclude a lot of other stuff. That just means the stuff that you're learning in classrooms. You're still more than welcome to take classes and study things outside of class, and you can mix them. So I got to do a lot of Chinese, but also politics. So I did a lot of work at a nonprofit where they work between the government in China and Chinese language in the U.S. So I did take Chinese at the college level, and SYA definitely prepared me. I was Chinese level, college level Chinese 3 when I went into Georgetown. So that's just an example. You know, students would have to take 2 years of college to get to that level if they came with no Mandarin. So it was a great time.
All right, so we're basically at our time limit, unfortunately, and I know we didn't get to answer a lot of your questions, but just to wrap up, I know a few of you did ask about when you'll hear back from SYA, if you've got accepted or not. So Anna, could you just go through the deadlines, like the application deadlines, when people will hear back from us, and all that good stuff?
Oh, wait, before we do that really quickly, we're going to have 2 other Google Hangouts.
I'll get to that.
Oh, you're going to get to that? All right, we don't forget that.
Yeah,
All right.
don't worry.
So yes, our application deadline is February 7th. With financial aid materials, if you're applying for financial aid, due on February 14th. And admissions decisions will go out that first full week in March. So yeah, still some time to apply, but start thinking about it.
Right, and like Enrique just mentioned, we are actually going to have 2 more Hangouts, and these Hangouts are specific to SYA China and SYA Italy. So if you're interested in one of those programs, during these sessions, you'll be able to ask questions directly, kind of like what you're doing now, but to the people or the students who are in Beijing and Viterbo. So on camera, you will see them and live in their schools with the resident director, and you'll be able to listen to them and while they're there and get some real life experience. So those will be happening. SYA China is January 9th. And SYA Italy is January 12th, and both those Hangouts with the exact times are on our website. So if you go to our event section under the admissions tab, there's an online events page, and those Hangouts are there.
And another great way to get that information is if you start your application and you're logging in, and you say, you know what, I think I'm interested in China. You go on your application, and you put in China, and you start your application, you'll get those updates from us because we know that you're interested in that program. So if you tell us that you're applying for China on your application, you're going to get that information about the Hangout for Italy or the Hangout for China.
Right.
So don't forget, start your application, log in, talk to your parents, show them the application so they know what's going on as well.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on social media as well. We have an SYA admissions Facebook page, a Twitter page, and we also have a School Year Abroad Instagram page. So all our events that we have, we promote via those pages as well, and you'll get with emails, and you'll get plenty of reminders if you do want to attend one of those sessions. So we will get to your questions. The ones that we didn't get to, if we have your name and email address already in our system, we can actually respond to you individually. So don't be afraid that just because we didn't get to your question tonight that it won't go unanswered. We'll just get back to you later.
And if you haven't done it already, please share your name, school, country, and email address with Shauna in the chat box. All right?
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you soon, and hope to see you guys have logged in on our website. So
Bye.
take care.
Bye.
Good night.